swim, bike, and run. In the Kona sun, we're gonna swim, bike, and run. In the Kona sun, 2021.
Thank you, Poncho Man. Breakfast with Bob, not quite Kona edition. My name is Bob Babbitt. Our sponsors are Hoka One One, Credo Tri, Four Seasons Walleye, Challenge Daytona, Form Goggles, Canyon Bikes, Normatec, Amp Human, VeloFix You Can, and our Challenge Athletes Foundation. Our next guest, two-time Olympian and one of our favorite people on the planet. I love her personality. Sarah True joins us from she's being held hostage back in New England, and she's in the attic and she's trying to get out, and we call for help, Sarah. We'll get you out anytime now.
I'm not in the attic, Bob. I'm in the Kona of my mind.
How are you doing, Sarah? How are you hanging in through all this craziness? Because I know you love racing.
I do love racing. I do absolutely miss Kona and being in the community and just, pre-COVID times. But I am trying to focus on the things that are awesome in life. And the positives of the moment is normally I wouldn't be able to ride my mountain bike and do like mountain running and stuff because the risk of injury is too high, especially, since this would normally be Kona time. So I'm doing new things. I'm trying to focus on that and being around, people I love and trying to make the most of the moment.
Now, your husband, Ben True, is trying to make the Olympic team for 2021. And what has he heard in terms of the Olympics happening? It seems like when there's a lot of dollars involved, stuff happens. NBA, MLB. I have a real hard time believing they will not hold the Olympic Games.
Well, and the IOC has been saying flat out, even if we have to have it where there's no vaccine yet, but we have nobody in the stands and we just have athletes. I mean, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. That's where we are mentally. I'm so impressed by him. So he shifted mentally pretty quickly. He's like, listen, it's not going to happen this year. I just have to focus on being consistent, staying healthy, working towards next year. And that's exactly what he's doing. And it's so great to have somebody like that in the house, just as a good, role model. I'm like, okay, Ben, I'll do what you're doing. It seems like a pretty good idea.
When I look at your career, two-time Olympian, and 2012 in London, you're 10 seconds out of the medals. You got 10 seconds. You're in fourth place. Phenomenal race. It's one of those things like, hey, you're fourth best in the world, right? But we're just giving medals to these three. So it's nice knowing you. How hard was that for you to, one, the positive, it's sort of like, here's the positive and negative. There's the podium, and here I am, but I'm the fourth best triathlete on the planet.
You're absolutely right. I have gotten a lot of practice being fourth at major races. So I've been fourth, yes, at the Olympics, but also 70.3 Worlds and in Kona. So it's, first of all, it's pretty expensive to be fourth instead of on the podium for these things. But honestly, I don't know. I like to so London was kind of practice for me mentally for getting fourth at Kona and just feeling gratitude. So I think the first time around, it was actually pretty hard on me. I'm like, oh, if I'd only believed in myself more and done all these different things in training, then maybe I would have an Olympic medal. And by the time in my career I got around to finishing fourth at Kona, I'm like, hey, this is awesome. I'm fourth at Kona. And it was such a big mind shift. And it really required me to just be really grateful for the good races because they don't always happen. And on the right day, that might lead to, Olympic medal. It might lead to, a world championship title. Who knows? But all you can do is kind of control your race and having a good day and just appreciating your process. And that's kind of where I've come around to.
Well, and I always look at, when I look at the 2018 results, right? You're 8:43.43. And the woman one spot in front of you is Annie Hawk, 8:41.58. So a minute 45 off of getting third place. But more importantly, Annie goes off in 2019 and wins the whole enchilada. She wins the Ironman World Championship. And really, you had run your way into third place, and Annie ran by with, 4 miles to go. So you and Annie are right there. So there's really no reason you can't do the same thing, right? There's really no reason that you can't have that same type of race that Annie had in Kona, right? There's just such a fine line. The competition is so deep that one day you can be fourth, the next time you could be winning the whole thing. You come away from those type of experiences now and look at, okay, let's look at the positive of this.
Yeah, no, I think it was such a great race on so many levels. You know, it was my first time at Kona ever, you know, not just as a racer, but just being in Kona. So yeah. I got to take it all in. I got to be part of, you know, the whole vibe and just experience it. So it was great from that standpoint. But then, you know, the high performance standpoint, obviously, was a wake up moment where we're like, hey, I'm actually pretty good at this.
Yes.
And, you know, Annie took that year and she made herself a world champion. And it definitely was inspiring to me. I mean, it should be inspiring to everybody just to know that, you know, sometimes you have that wake up and you're like, I belong here. And then just trying to build on that.
So when you look at your 2-time Olympic experience, right? Olympics is the pinnacle of all sport. Then you come to Kona. Was it similar, totally different? Because when you go into the Olympics, it's just you and the other pro athletes, right? And when you go to Kona, it's all the age groupers and all the fans. And compare those two experiences.
I would say that the Olympics, it's a global sport party. So like all different sports, you get to have a big party with the best in the world. And, you know, you're just one of many. You know, you're one of many athletes, you're one of many sports. There's a lot going on. It's really chaotic. But then Kona is just a triathlon party. So it's, you know, they're very different. One is all focused on one sport. The other is just disjointed chaos, which is amazing because you feel part of something really big, you know, both globally in terms of this is my little sport and everybody has their little thing. But triathlon, we just get to focus on triathlon in Kona. And I think that's pretty special too.
So like you said, your 70.3 worlds, first time out, Chattanooga, you get fourth. Then first time, I think it was your first Ironman, was Frankfurt, and you get second, right? And qualify for Kona. You're like, this stuff's pretty easy.
It's nuts.
Everybody's telling me this is going to be hard. World Championships. I go to Frankfurt. It's the best field, you know, besides Kona, and I get second. What's the big deal? And then I go to Kona and get fourth. I'm on top of the world. But we have this thing called sometimes the sport it's an equal opportunity abuser, right? It doesn't care. And you go to Frankfurt after getting second, and the race was like, you know, I think she might be thinking she's pretty good. We really want to beat the crap out of her. We're going to make it 100 degrees, and we're going to let her lead until 25 and a half miles. And then we're going to put the big kibosh and let her know what triathlon is all about.
Yeah, you know, I think a lot of people, they have the steep learning curve at the start. I did not expect my sophomore year in the distance to be my learning curve year, where, you know, it was less, actually, I should rephrase that. It was less about learning about the sport and more just gaining a new level of humility about my own body and realizing that you can, you know, have your nutrition dialed in, you can have, you know, be well prepared, have your equipment dialed in, just everything, you know, tick all the boxes. But then because the distance is so hard, because, you know, the conditions can be so extreme, there can be things kind of out of your control internally to basically just say, it's not going to happen today. And that was my 2019. And it really, it gave me a newfound appreciation for when your body does allow you to do the things you love. And that's, you know, it was really frustrating. It was really hard, but also I walked away from that year, really feeling like, when I can't take it for granted. I can't take it for granted when I am allowed when everything falls into place to let me do the things I love, to celebrate the sport I love.
So when Ben, who's 5K, 10K guy,
Mm-hmm.
and he comes to Kona, and obviously he's an endurance sports fan, but when he comes there, how does he look at this crazy event and what his wife does for a living?
So the first year he came, he gets off the plane, and obviously we all know it's like an oven.
Right.
And the first week he was just complaining all the time. He would come back from, an hour run, just dripping with sweat, flop on the ground, say, why on earth would anybody want to compete in this? And we had to have this talk where, like, Ben, I had to sit him down and say, Ben, I'm about to do an Ironman in these conditions, and I would appreciate it if you kept the chit chat to minimum and were a bit more positive, because it was definitely getting my head where he would just be like, oh, woe is me. I just went for a 45-minute run and I'm so hot and miserable. So we had a little attitude adjustment, but like you said, he's a big sports fan. He just, we've, obviously followed the race online previous to 2018, and to be there in person, he loves seeing people do the sport. That he loves seeing sport. He loves seeing, guys like Jan in person, and, have a real appreciation for the conditions and for how hard it is.
So was he there in Frankfurt when when you basically had to be carried off with an 8-9 minute lead?
Yeah. About 800 meters to go. No, he was not there. Yeah.
Oh my God. I was watching the video last night, mm-hmm. and there was no one home. I mean, Julie Moss looked a lot more together when she was crawling. When I watched you, I'm like, oh my God. Is that scary for you to watch that?
No, because how do I describe it? I was aware. So I remember being at that point and knowing that the finish line was very close by. And I remember being like, okay, just get to the finish line, get to the finish line. And then when, the other athlete touched me, I just lost all momentum. So, I just ended up crumbling. So my brain it looked scary.
Yeah.
But I know what was going on in my head. And it basically was like my neck down was very confused, but my brain was still more aware than it made it look. Yeah. That being said, I don't really remember. I guess the bridge part was really scary. I don't remember the bridge part, but I definitely remember that final stretch and going through the aid station. I remember all of that quite clearly. Yeah.
Is it something the next time you went to a start line, was it hard when you went to Mount Tremblant? Mm-hmm. Was that weighing on you? Do you start trying to govern yourself a little bit so you don't end up there?
Oh, absolutely. So we were very aware that basically it was a neural response, and we were seeing even in training, my heart rate was a pretty good indicator that something bad was going to happen. So we just had caps, and we made sure that I stayed well below those caps. So, I go to the next Ironman, and my cap was pretty low. I couldn't ride hard. I couldn't run hard, but I made it to the finish line. And honestly, there was a part of me that just needed to do that to stay within those very conservative metrics and just finish, to know that, get that monkey off my back, know that my body would let me, maybe not as fast as I would want, but just know I could cover the distance again.
What was fascinating is there's this great photo of Jan Frodeno winning this year and breaking the course record. Mm-hmm. And he's coming, here he is, 1 second. He is setting the course record at the Ironman World Championship. And as soon as he hits that finish line, right, his body gives out. And Dave Scott and Mark Allen have to grab him to keep him from hitting the deck. So part of the beauty of our sport is you are taking your body to that absolute max. In 1 second, you're the best in the world. And the next second, you don't remember who you are or where you are.
Totally. I mean, I think that's what's one of the most fascinating things about the Ironman distance is that our brains do override our bodies. And the problem is some of us who are super stubborn like me, probably do go too far. And that's, it's part of the sport. It's part of the sport. And sometimes like your brain resets. But it's absolutely fascinating to see what we can put ourselves through. And we are capable of so much, but sometimes, your brain does have a way of saying, okay, that was too much last time. Pump the brakes there, Sarah.
How hard has it been? Because 2018 was so great. 2019 was a crap show. And 2020 hasn't happened. Right?
Yeah.
So what are you planning now? And what are your hopes for 2021?
I think, so here's the thing. None of us know what's going to happen, right?
Right.
But the upside of being an athlete is you have to be both an optimist and you have to be, very present-minded. So like right now, I am controlling what I can on a day-to-day level. And I'm not peak fitness, but my fitness is pretty good, in part because I just love getting out the door and playing sports. Right. Right. That's what keeps me going. And then the optimist says, all right, I think things are going to turn around. And optimism, and so what's really interesting in psychology is that optimism and resiliency have a very strong correlation. So it's not optimism like being unrealistic about probability. It's about really, focusing on the positive of what may happen. So it's being realistic. It's, being a pragmatist, but also focusing on the good instead of what may happen that could be bad. So that's kind of my mindset. And I've, because of sport, because of all those years, we all learned so much resilience. And I think that's coming into play right now where we are resilient and we're optimistic. And what that means for 2021 is we have no idea what's going to unfold, but I know we're ready for that moment when it comes. Such a long-winded answer, but
it's a good answer. But it's not often when you're talking to an athlete where they're talking about cognitive behavior therapy. Mm-hmm. You're a very insightful athlete and someone who really looks at all aspects of what racing, training, etc. Talk a little about how you've incorporated some different types of therapy to make you better.
Well, I think part of it is when I realized I was going to be training alone for Ironman up in New Hampshire, I realized I was going to be spending a lot of time by myself, so I better like my own company. If I am my own training partner, that training partner better be motivated, have good jokes,
Have snacks.
Oh yeah, snacks. I mean, Sarah brings great snacks. But I because I'd come from, a squad environment where you have a coach basically telling you what to do on a day-to-day basis, I think it was really important for me to start to really understand how my own mind worked and be able to kind of, for lack of a better term, optimize, my psychology to be able to get out the door and stay motivated and to be able to be a high performance athlete, even though I'm out in the woods in New Hampshire by myself. And yeah, my jokes are terrible, but they always make me laugh. So yeah, I think for many people, and for me as well, like sport is absolutely therapy. I get all the positive hormones out of it. It makes me feel good. It keeps me whole. And that's a huge part of it. It can also be negative, and it's trying to focus on the positive aspects of it, everything it gives me, instead of, there is a tendency for some of us to maybe get to, to controlling about sport, or to let our self-esteem be tied to it. So for me, I really had to kind of separate like the potential negative aspects of sport and really focus on the positive psychological benefits of it. So that was a huge part for me.
What's been your happiest memory from racing?
My happiest memory from racing. Oh my. Most of my happiest memories from racing really have very little to do with the races themselves, and more to do with, just having dinner with family and friends and training partners after a race, or, hanging out at the pool before a race and just chit-chatting with people, or seeing other athletes at athlete briefings and just giving them a big hug. So I do love racing. There are definitely moments where I'll be in the middle of the race, a race like Kona, and you're running down Ali'i and all these people are cheering, and I just have a big stupid grin on my face because, like, this is crazy. I'm doing Ironman in Hawaii and I've always seen this on TV. And that's absolutely part of it. But I don't know, it all just kind of blends together, and it's this, I love all of it.
What do you think when I look at, swim, run background, getting the triathlon, go to 2 Olympics, move into the longer distance, immediately have success there? What do you think it is about you? What is it inherent in you that has helped to make you a champion?
I'm stubborn. No, honestly, I'm not the most talented athlete in the world. But I am stubborn, but also aware of my limitations. So I think I've seen a lot of athletes who are equally stubborn, but they have it in their minds that because their training program says that they need to do X, Y, and Z, they'll do it even though they might be getting sick, they might be getting injured, they might be getting overtrained. I have a very good body awareness. So I've been able to avoid some of that. So I'm stubborn at the right moments, with the exception of maybe racing last year. That was maybe too much stubbornness. I learned my limitations. So I think it's really that balance between being very driven and being, being very goal oriented, while also being able to separate ego and be like, okay, I want to go out and do my run workout because I worry that if I don't do it, then that says something about me as an athlete. But really on that day, it's like, okay, if I do it, then this, calf that doesn't feel great, that might be an injury. And that's going to set me back 2 weeks instead of just opting out of the workout today. So that's something that I've learned over time, where the pig-headed stubbornness definitely when I was younger took over. So I ended up overtrained a lot, and I've had to learn over time just to be a bit more humble about my body's limitations and just be accepting, and try to maximize on the day, but not try to let my brain take over and my goals take over, and just kind of be like, okay, today I can do this, and that's good enough. And just the next morning you wake up and you try to do whatever your body will let you do.
So you and your husband are both world-class athletes in different sports. How do you guys balance that? How do you support Ben? How does Ben support you? And how do you avoid going, Ben, you shouldn't be doing that. If you want to be the best, like you said, you could be a little stubborn, and I'm sure that sometimes you want to go, oh, you shouldn't be doing that. How do you guys do that? How do you balance it?
Gently. With kid gloves, as they say. No, honestly, we try to not let our relationship be too much about sport. So I think what's good is that because we each have background in sport, we understand what the other person's going through. And we are there as advisors, we are there as sounding boards, we are there, to gently remind somebody, hey, you might be sick. Based on my observation, maybe it would be good to take a day off. And it's the little angel on your shoulder. That's our job, is to just kind of remind the other person what they already know. And just reinforce what they know to be the right thing. Yeah, so I think that's it. But other than that, because we know that we have long non-professional athlete lives ahead of us, and we want to make sure that sport is something we both do, but it's not the foundation of our relationship.
Love it. Sarah, thank you for always being so open and honest and fun. I always enjoy our chats.
I love chatting with you too.
I just simply the best. I just love the way you look at life, and I love the enthusiasm you bring to our sport.
Hey, I know you love this sport too. I mean,
right.
We just kind of feed each other, right?
I just want to be racing. Going out of my mind. I raced 30 times last year, and like I'm going every weekend when I'm not putting a race number on and I'm not in a freaking transition area, I'm going, oh, what's going on? These weekends are weird.
Well, I think probably like me, yes, you miss doing the sport, but it's mostly just the people. That's what I've missed most. Yeah. I so miss this community, and it's great to have other opportunities to, to connect with people online, but it's not the same.
No. The best is every weekend I'm in the transition area at 4:30 in the morning with all my other guys in the 60 to death category. And it's pitch black out. There's nobody else there. None of the young people are there yet. We've got our good spots in the racks, and we're all like, why are we here? Why are we doing this? And it's invariably, we all say at the same time, because we can, right? Yeah. Because we can do it. And I think all of us are going to come away from this year going, never take for granted that these races are going to happen, that we better make sure if there's a race we want to do it, because you never know, right? We learned this year that this stuff could go away tomorrow, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, I think like last year definitely taught me not to take for granted what my body can do. And this year is teaching me not to take for granted that these amazing opportunities exist.
Love it. Sarah True has been our guest again, Breakfast with Bob, not quite Kona edition. Sarah and I will be sitting with this Huggos background next year. And after the race, we'll have one of those drinks with a little umbrella in it. That'd be great. Sarah, thank you as always for spending so much time. Pleasure.
Thank you, Bob.